Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. Woo! Today on episode 150, I was very lucky, and it was a joy to have Conor Bredin on. He is he is a teacher by day, author by night, and yeah, a joy to have as a podcast guest. He's also a podcaster on the full moon. We talked about many things. We talked about the Irish education system. We talked about how he got his book started and what inspired him to get that spark going. We even also talked about his podcast and some of the things what helped him build his growing band of authors out there. I got to simply say I really enjoyed this podcast. Look forward to having him back on again. And bend his ear about maybe a little bit of Invincible and like more of his geekdom and see how it goes from there. But for now, please subscribe to the podcast, enjoy the show, and have a great day. Yeah. Peace. Record.
Ooh, I have to say
Progress. Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. Woo! Today on episode 150. Yeah, that's right. I am very privileged to have, this is where the last name might get me. Conor Bredin.
Hey!
There you go. Come on. Who is a teacher by day and an author by night. Also on the full moons, he is a podcaster as well. But that's another story. Conor, how are you today?
I'm grand, a little bit tired and a bit sunburned as well because we had sports day in school today, and I had to deal with a kid who thinks he knows everything better than his teachers. So when he wanted to play in his final match, I just said, "No, you're not." He goes, "Oh, why?" And I said, "Because you've been annoying me all day, and I don't want to put up with you. So you can go sit over there."
It's like, sit down. It's like, I'll get my vengeance in this lifetime or the next. It's like
probably.
Yeah, you know what? I think there was one way you might have been able to subdue him.
Go on.
It's a simple way. You should have got out your ducky tie.
I should have got out my ducky tie. I should have. I'm terrified that you did my ducky tie.
Hey, look, I'm just saying, look, that ducky tie.
Miwa does his research.
Hey, all I've got to say is your ducky tie is there. You could have went, okay. It's like, no, I don't want to listen. Ducky tie. Just like ducky tie. Hey, subdue him. Now I have to ask, look, what was the thing what led you to become an author? Just to say, what was the thing?
Oh God, how long do you have? So I have said before that I was always cursed by my father to be obsessed with books and stories because I was named after the main character of a book he was reading when I was born. I know, even with a name like Conor, believe it or not, there's characters in books called Conor as well. One of the most common names ever, and we're still there.
The most famous Conor, not his first name, but last name, John Connor.
Oh yes. And actually, my middle name is John, so he's John Connor. I'm Connor John. So
I see. Okay, you're running from a big robot from the future. Then I understand.
I'd rather not say. No, but like I just so even from a really, really young age, like before I started formal schooling, I was obsessed with reading and books and stories and things like that. And I was born in New York, and when we were there, my parents had this like state of the art at the time, like very early 90s camera recorder. But what was cool was you could record directly onto a VHS tape with it. So you'd put the VHS into the camera, and then you could take it out and put it straight into your VCR. Anyone that was born like pre-94 can be like, what language is this?
What is this camcorder you talk of?
VHS, VCR? Why is he speaking in tongues?
Okay, like you Gen Z after, I don't know. Like, you embryo, get out of there. It's like, oh.
But yeah, they had this, and like every now and then we when we'd go on holidays back to Ireland, they'd bring it to like film everyone, and then they go back and show my dad's aunt who was living in New York. We're like, oh yeah, there's such and such and their kids. So every now and then they'd be like, a tape would be nearly finished, and my mom would just put it in, but like, here, Connor, do something, and I'd like get up and start acting on stage and retelling a fairy tale or doing that. So like, I've always been obsessed with telling
Yeah.
stories.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like the obsession of storytelling. So like, let me see. I'm curious. Like, so which was your favorite sort of story when you were a kid you came up with? Come on, like, you know what I mean? Like, this is the thing. If you've been doing it for a kid, like, and like, yeah, performing, hey.
Yeah. Okay, so we let's put it this way. We can do it in different stages. Right.
Okay.
So when I was before I was 10, my parents were split up for a little bit, and my mum and my brother and myself, we moved to Ireland when I was like 5, and then my dad was still living in America, and he once sent over this big collection of books, and I still have them, and I actually use them in school now with kids who are reluctant readers.
Wow.
And what they were retellings of old classics like A Tale of Two Cities, Gulliver's Travels, Swiss Family Robinson, Wildfang, the Jack London books about the two dogs, Call of the Wild and Whitefang. That was it. Like all those kind of books. And they were beautiful woodcut illustrations in them. So every other page had this amazing illustration, and then there was the retelling. It was like the same story, but it was bigger text, much more easy to read, that kind of thing. So like until I was 10, I went through every single one of them, and when I got to the end of the shelf, I just go back to the first one and read it again. They were mind-blowingly good. So that was like my first couple of books. Then once I got over 10, I started reading a lot of fantasy, particularly Harry Potter was a huge influence, written by she who must not be named.
Who's that?
No one. Here's a fun fact people don't know about Harry Potter. It wasn't actually written by an author. They just appeared one day, and that's all we'll say. That's just how it worked. So yeah, the Harry Potter books though, growing up, had a huge influence on me. Like, I was that kid who insisted on going at midnight to the shop to buy it at midnight. And then my parents bought a shop. My parents got back together. My parents bought a shop, and then they had books in it. So then I was the one who opened the shop at midnight to sell the book to me and my friends and anyone in the town who wanted to. So it was a nice kind of come around. But yeah, I've always been reading. It's just fantasy and kind of anything, as long as it's a good story that really pulls you in and makes you forget where you are while you're reading it, or while you're listening to it, or while you're whatever. That's all I look for.
Right. Like, it must be one of those things. I understand where you're coming from, where like to be able to lose yourself in a story, lose yourself into a book, to be transported to another world. It's one of those things where it is a tricky thing to do. Anyone who takes it lightly just doesn't get it, because like I think the fastest book I've ever read was like this sort of aliens predator like sort of book, and I was just like, yeah, like once I was there, I was like, yeah, I was literally in a mech suit, just like carving through this book. And like I'm like one of the books which I've looked at and went, no. One of my best mates, Ed Sadu, he was reading like, what would you say are 3 of the books you must read as a child?
See, this is tough, because as a teacher as well, I'm like, what are the Matilda by Roald Dahl.
Okay.
Absolutely. That book is phenomenally well told, exceptionally hilarious, and I kids love a good villain, and there's no better villain than Mr. Wormwood, Mrs. Wormwood, and Miss Trunchbull, or she was Miss Trunchbull. Brilliant book. I always put that in front of a kid if I think, hey, if you're good at reading, you're gonna love this. So Matilda by Roald Dahl. there's a book I have that's not very well known, but the author is very well known. She's a Black British author, actually, Mallory Blackman.
Okay.
Have you heard of her?
No,
She's written a huge amount of books, but there's one book it never really did very well, and it's not very well known. It's called Thief, and it is like I remember reading it too, because in Ireland we have we have a couple of ways of getting kids to read. One is like have a big library in the classroom and they can pick books or whatever. One, we do novels as a whole class. But sometimes kids are reluctant because they're forced to. But my favorite way to get them into reading is to read a book to them. Just sit back and listen to that, we're reading this book. And I'll do that with every age. Some teachers think, once they get to 10, they're a bit old. But no, I'll be there with 13-year-olds going, and once upon a time, and I'll read them. You'd be surprised how much people like being read to.
Yeah.
And I always read this book. And I remember the last class I had, like they were gasping and they were kind of at it because there's such twists and turns in the book. It's just amazing. So that's my number 2. So Thief by Mallory Blackman, Matilda by Roald Dahl, and I'm drawing a blank now. I can't think of any, but there's just so many. I would say I'm not going to say the Harry Potter books because I think there's really good books. They're really good, but they're kind of, there's such a cultural zeitgeist now that even the kids who don't read the books still know enough about them. Do you know what I mean? I'll cheat and I'll say for Irish children, I think the third book they should read before they grow out of it is a book called The Guns of Easter by Gerald, Whelan. The Guns of Easter is a fiction book, but it's set during the real life rebellion that happened in Dublin during World War I in 1916 against the British Empire. And it's actually, even though it failed, the leaders of that rebellion were executed. And when they were, the Irish public kind of really and it kind of got the ball rolling towards Irish independence from the empire. So I think Irish kids in particular, once they get 9, 10, they're going to read that book going, oh, that's what happened. That's amazing. So
I see. That's how you indoctrinate them all. It's like,
educate. That's how you educate them all.
I'm sorry. Educate. You know what I mean? But yeah. But okay. This is the thing. Going back to the story I was telling.
Yes.
The book, I think every kid should read. I didn't. Lord of the Rings, that big chunky SOB of a book, 1,200 and God knows how many pages. I looked at it, was like, oh my God. And he was reading through this, he was like, yeah, chewing through it. Yeah. If a book can hold anyone for that many pages with that in-depth storytelling, books are powerful things. And I think, they are poorly served by a large percentage of people who try to become authors. And
I think as well, though, speaking as a teacher again, I can't take the hat off. We're doing this on a Thursday evening, so I'm still what do I have to do tomorrow? But I think as well that one issue that a lot of people have at reading is it's kind of forced very much on them, and kids aren't allowed to explore books as much as I would like to, especially I've never taught in the UK, but I am very familiar with the education system because it's quite similar to the Irish one. So it's very much readers, which are, those books that you do that there's they're leveled and you go up the level and that kind of thing. Whereas a lot of teachers look at my classroom with confused expressions when I'm shoving a comic book in a kid's hands because that's reading. Yeah. And then there's another kid who there's a kid I teach at the minute. He's huge into baking, and he's and not only is he into it, he's really good at it. Really good. He's, before COVID and stuff, he would bring in something every other Friday and be like, hey, I made this. Do you want to try? And I'm like, yeah, okay, you made it. No bother. Give it over. So I'm getting him cookbooks. Yeah.
I can just see it now. Every Friday, you just show up at his locker. Hey, how you doing? Hey. It's like, you cool? You cool? Yeah. Right.
Yeah, what you got?
Victoria sponge for me right there. That Victoria sponge. Yeah, you mentioned it.
No, it's his flapjacks. The flapjacks they're more butter than they are anything else. So they're just
It's like,
It's so bad for you. But
it's like you can feel one artery slowly clogging up. It's like,
absolutely.
it's like, I will finish it. I will. Like, would you say, with regards to the sort of education system, I'm like, you're a teacher, but would you say in some respects they make, like, rather than sort of make it fun and interesting, it takes it down a different path, sort of dull and boring, or is it in between? What would you say?
I would say the okay. So the biggest issue with the education system in the UK, and I as I said, I've never taught in the UK, but I guarantee you, every UK teacher, if they're listening to this, will be like, yes, classrooms are too big. The amount of kids we have is too big. The UK and Ireland, before the UK left the EU, for example, the UK and Ireland were number 1 and number 2 in terms of the amount of children, the highest amount of children. So I think the UK ratio, pupil teacher ratio is based school-wide. Right. So you might have classrooms that are smaller, but if you look at the whole school, that works out. The UK, I think, was 29.7 kids for one teacher.
Oh God.
And Ireland is 25 at the minute. But whereas that sounds amazing, 25-1, actually you usually end up with classrooms of 31, because then you have to have those extra teachers that go in and out of different rooms and help out with the kids who really need it, which is what I'm doing now. Whereas countries like Finland, their ratio is 14-1. Like, can you imagine having only 14? Can you imagine being 1 as a kid? Go back in your head, Miwa, and imagine there's only 13 other kids in your class.
I'm so and one in my head.
One teacher. Okay. Take your time.
We might be here for some time. Like, yeah.
Also the recording now.
It's like I haven't moved for a long time. Yeah. It's okay.
But like, can you imagine being like in a classroom so small? Because then you can give so much more attention to each kid. The way I'm very passionate about this, obviously. The way I like to explain it to people is, if you think of it less how many kids are in the classroom, and more how many minutes in the teaching day can a teacher give just to your kid, you'd be shocked at how much people would be like, oh, we need the classroom smaller. Because I think at the minute in the classroom I work in, there's 29. So with the school day, take away the 2 breaks in the day, each kid gets 7 minutes one-on-one attention.
That is madness. That is madness. Yeah. Because I don't know how it works in Ireland, because like I had friends who were teachers and like basically teacher assistants, and like they have Ofsted, like sort of checking and making sure they were up to standards. And if you're saying you've got 7 minutes a child with like a class of 29, and I'm at like, and you said it's 29, it must probably about 29 to 31 kids here in the UK. That is just like, how on earth do you expect them to really kind of learn anything when you're talking that's the length of 2 TikToks at this present time? Oh, so, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. See, and that's why I like your reaction there is a perfect example, because that's why I don't like it when people say it's 29-1, or like 29 kids to one teacher, or 25-1, because that just sounds like there's 25 in the classroom. And yeah, it does work out that on average, but when you put it in minutes, when you get an email from a parent and they're like, which I got today, when you get an email from a parent being like, listen, I'm not happy with how they're doing, I think you could be doing that, what can you do to help me out? I kind of feel like saying, I literally on your kid can get 7 minutes one-on-one attention from me maximum, otherwise other children's education is gonna suffer, or you know what I mean. So that's the number one problem with education in the UK and Ireland in particular, is that there's not enough funding, because basically both our governments want to show as many kids into the classroom so that they can save money on having less teachers in the nation. So as a result, then that's why you have the kids who don't like reading, because as a teacher, everyone has to read the same thing, so you're able to actually teach anything.
Mm.
Whereas if I had a class of 14, I can be like, guys, who would like to read Matilda? And there'd be like 5 kids, right? Great. Here, take a copy of Matilda, read it, stop at the end of chapter 1 and have a chat. You guys, do you all want to read something else? Great. Hey, Miwa, I know you're finding reading tricky, but you know what? I know you like the Fantastic Four. Here's a stack of Fantastic Four comics. Look through that. You could be more like that, and kids would actually get to explore learning the way their brain is wired to. But unfortunately, you have this other system that means we all have to do the same.
Yeah, like it kind of reminds me of there's a like the classic sort of picture meme where like you've got a guy sitting at a desk and he goes, okay, you've got like different animals like all lined up, and he goes, hey, the object of this test is to climb up the tree and get the banana. And like you're like going, okay, I don't know how this elephant's going to do it or this penguin, but you're like, and you're just like, oh, okay. When it's that sort of cookie cutter, and I know it's not easy. I can't claim to like go, yes, this is how we do modern day like education system. But if there's any kind of disruption, or if there's one kid which is like, who knows, going through a tough time, that 7 minutes you talked about is optimal. That is not taking into account of craziness what can happen with kids, like, because especially if they're in senior school, the hormones are rushing, and they sometimes will go crazy.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah, exactly. And like I know that comic, because I've actually shown that to classes and kids before standardized tests. So we don't have Ofsted, but we do have a curriculum. We do have inspectors that can come randomly to the school to make sure we're doing things the way we should or whatever. But I have shown that to kids and be like, look, we have to do this test. It's something the government wants. The reason we do it is so that the government can see, oh, as a country, we're not doing so great lately in maths, so we're going to put more money into maths. And I'll show them that comic book and be like, that strip, and be, some of you are the monkey in this situation. Some of you are able to climb that tree. You'll be able to do the test like that. Some of you are goldfish. You're not even able to get out of the bowl. So don't worry about it. And then another day I'll be like, if this was PE, if climbing the tree and getting the banana was kicking a football, the kids who are the goldfish are now the monkey. The kids who are the monkey might be the giraffe now. Like it's...
Yeah. But like, this is the thing with like this, like with these standardized tests, do they learn anything, or do they learn how to take the test?
So there's 2 types of assessment. You're really unlocking the teacher stuff. 2 types of assessment. There's assessment of learning and assessment for learning. So your assessment of learning is the test at the end of the year. It's your A levels and your GCSEs, your junior cert and your leaving cert. You've been learning, you've been studying, what do you now know? Okay, and that's one thing. Standardized tests, the way we use them in Ireland, especially in primary school, which is the only thing I definitely know, is we use it for assessment for learning. So we just did that standardized test. We might see that there's 10 kids that are doing amazingly well, but there's actually 7 kids at the other end of the spectrum who are really suffering. So those 7 kids are then earmarked for extra help for the next school year. To get them out of that. Now, obviously some kids will never get out of that bottom 7 for different reasons. They might have a learning difficulty, they might have special needs of some sort. It could be they're just not somebody who's good at maths, but they could be an amazing dancer or an amazing artist. There's a kid who, as I said, an amazing baker, and it's all about trying to give them a nice well-rounded bed of confidence.
Well-rounded bed of confidence. Yeah, it is a tricky thing. Because like really discovering yourself and what you want to, like, what type of person you kind of make that fit is a tricky thing. It makes me ask you this, like you'd say, you loved reading when you were a kid and like you were doing like stories, but like what was kind of like the spark for you to like go, you know what, I've talked about it, I've thought about it, but now, sod it, I'm gonna go out and start my book?
Well, I always was writing, even as a kid. Like even before I started formal school, I would draw pictures and tell my mom, "Oh, and this is the bunny, and the bunny went down the hole," and blah blah blah. So I was always writing stories. Sometimes I would not do my English homework, not write the essay, and instead write a short story, that kind of thing. So it was always in me. So even from a young kid, I was like, I want to be an author when I grow up. It just was always there, but the thing that finally gave me the kick up the arse to actually do it was actually a really bad thing. It was my boyfriend of 4 years got very ill, and was in hospital for 4 months, I think, nonstop. So we kind of like he's fine now, and like he did have some long-term effects, like he has a disability now and things like that. But everything's no, it's fine. It's ancient history for us at this point. But I remember the two of us kind of, how can I put it? Once everything had really settled down, and once he was kind of over the major humps in the road of his recovery, we both sat down, and I actually got this little stupid workbook thing that was called the bucket list for couples. And I was just like, yeah, let's think about what's really important to you as an individual, what's really important to me as an individual, but what's really important to us as a couple as well.
That is a dangerous book, my friend, because it's like a dangerous book. Yeah.
It was a bit of a letdown, actually, because I was expecting it to have more a list of things we could possibly do and like that. But it was, to be honest, it was much more of a very blank workbook. But as I said, it started the conversation, so we were lying on the floor looking at that, talking, doing that, and I kept saying, yeah, well, when I'm a published author, and when I have a book, and when I and he was just like, you talk about that all the time, but I've never seen you write. I was like, oh shit. He's called my bluff.
Yeah, like this is the thing. I think a lot of people they don't catch themselves in that sort of trap, but like the whole, like, because you do a lot of saying, and you're always saying, you don't get into the realm of doing. And like, believe you me, saying can take up a lot of time before you know it. It's just like, where did 5 years go? Okay. So he called your bluff on it.
The prick.
Yeah, it's like, you son of a bitch. I was quite happy, content, just saying this, saying that.
Yeah, exactly.
I had the book, I had my whole book series all set out
in my head.
Yes,
it's fine there.
Yeah. Just like going, looking at the one who can't be named and laughing in her face. You fool. Like, yes, Harry who. So after he called you bluff, what did you do? Did you armed, or did you just go, you
no, he called my bluff, but to be honest, I don't think I had realized at that point that I was bluffing. Do you know what I mean? Like, in my head, I was like, no, I'm going to do it. Like, I was listening to podcasts about writing, and I was reading books about writing. Like, I felt like I was walking the walk, but really it was just more talking the talk. So when he said that, it was like, oh yeah, I'm circling the drain. Like, I'm doing everything except the thing I need to do to be a writer, which is write. I just said, you know what? Okay, screw it. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to write a novel. And at that time, I had tried to write 4 different novels, and all of them. And by tried to write, I mean I had started, and one of them actually I got to 50,000 words on, which is. It sounds like a lot, but that's a short book. Like to use She Who Must Not Be Named as a reference. The first Harry Potter book, which is the shortest one, is 76,000 words.
Okay.
So 50,000, like a good bit done.
Presentations, my friend.
Yeah.
It's like,
So I said, right, that's it. I'm gonna do it. But the goal of this is to actually finish it, and then we'll see where we go from there. So I bought another book about writing, but this was a workbook, and it was really cool. So it made you like list out things you're passionate and interested about, and then you had to pick the top 15 or something like that, or maybe 12 out of that could lead to a book. And then I had to put them all in a hat, and I had to draw them out in threes and look at which trio was I most drawn to. And that was the seed of my book. So the trio I pulled out was Newgrange, which is a ancient Irish Neolithic passage tomb. It's the oldest in Western Europe. It's older than Stonehenge. It's older than the pyramids at Giza. And it has this really amazing thing where on the dawn of the shortest day of the year, the dawn of the winter solstice, the sun shines in the doorway exactly perfectly and lights up a chamber inside. And this only happens on the 2 days before, the day of, and the 3 days after the solstice. So for those 6 days, when you're there at dawn, the room lights up from sunlight, and every other day of the year, it's pitch black. Yeah.
That's some freaky calculations. What went on with that? Okay,
I know, and that's older than the pyramid. So like, that's insanely impressive. So that was thing number one. Thing number two was I can't remember the word I wrote down, but I wrote down like films and adventures and things along the lines of Indiana Jones, Tomb Raider, Uncharted, The Goonies, that kind of exploration and discovering clues and it leading you down a rabbit hole and this big thing at the end. And the last word was cults, as in like mysterious, strange cults. So that became The Longest Night.
So like with that, like like that becoming The Longest Night and everything like that, going with cults, going with like a secret area which only lights up 6 days out of the year during the solstice, and like adventure, like taking into the many realms of different adventures, like films and genres, which like, so how did you sort of like start building the sort of characters behind this? Or because that is quite a hefty lot to take in right there. It's not small. Yeah.
One thing I've always noticed in books I read was a lot of them there's one main character.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, even again, I keep going back to it and I don't want to, but going back to Harry Potter, like it's Harry, Ron, and Hermione. And Ron and Hermione are hugely important characters, but we never, I don't know if you've read them, but you never get to see their point of view. There's never a chapter that like is Hermione in the library and thinking to herself and discovering something. It's always Harry's off doing something and someone then comes to him, which is an absolutely legitimate, perfectly fine way to write a book. But it always bothered me. So that was my first thing. First thing I was like, I want 3 main characters. I want them to be equally main characters as much as is possible in terms of importance to the story, in terms of amount of time they're featured in the story. Another thing that was important to me was I got as good a representation of Ireland. The whole thing is set in Ireland, by the way, the whole book. I wanted a really good representation of Ireland as it is at the minute. So I wanted to make sure there was people of color as a main character. I wanted to make sure that there was people from the LGBT spectrum especially because I'm LGBT. So I want to see. Yeah. Did I not mention that?
No, you didn't mention that. I didn't quite pick it up when you said, your boyfriend.
Yeah, you know.
It's like, oh my God. It's like, you're gay? I'm sorry, I didn't know. It's like, it's like, you look so normal. What? It's like, what? What's that howl in the distance? Counsel him. Oh no, I got to go.
I've had that. I've had that reaction in real life, being like, oh yeah, and then I was saying to my boyfriend, I was like, sorry, what? I'm like, yeah. My boyfriend, we're together 13 years, like, and people are just like, you're gay. I'm like, I mean,
it's like, I haven't really hitting it. Came in holding hands. It's like, like he said, I'm his better half. I went, no, I'm really his better half. It's like, yeah.
Oh God. But yeah, so like when I was thinking of the main characters and stuff, those 2 things were really important. I wanted it to be representative. I wanted it to be as even though it was a 3, I wanted to make sure there was a gender balance if I could, which I didn't. But there's 2 men, one woman. But there's a lot of all this. The secondary characters are women, that are very crucial to the plot as well. So yeah, like that workbook I mentioned that made me bring out all those different things and put them in the hat. That also forced me to brainstorm. The book said you might be tempted to move on, but do not. It made me brainstorm 10 different characters, with the idea being, but all 10 have to potentially be the main character of your book.
Okay.
I was like, okay, I can do that. So I did. I came up with 10, and I then had to pick the 3 I thought were the best. And that's how I ended up with Hunter, Keith, and Tasha.
Mhm. Yeah, that must be one hell of a tricky thing, because okay, like you're building these characters, like, and like basically you're assembling their personalities. I don't know, maybe people, maybe it's just like, what I mean, random thought, or like might get like a slight bit of inspiration where you have an amalgam of different characters through literature or real life or whatnot. But you must, like, do you sometimes fall into the trap where you might like one character more than the other? And like, so you kind of like, hey, it's like you keep turning, I'd like to see what happens with this character. What they're going to do today? Oh, that cheeky so-and-so, little scamp. Like, do you find yourself, you fall into that trap, or is it a case of like, yeah, or
I did. I see. I think this is an element of my teaching background feeding into my writing foreground, let's say, because I'm a very extensive planner. I mean, you can see all those post-it notes. They are very, very specific. And not only that, they're very perfectly evenly laid out because I'm a weirdo about certain things. So I know, I'm a weirdo, shock.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. On a side note, I always make a point of calling the kids weirdos when they do something really unique or different. And when they first have me or get to know me, they get really offended. And I'm like, no. Weirdo's a good thing. Like, let's be clear. Weirdo means you're individual, you're different. But anyway, that's a side note. So yeah, like that's the thing. Because I'm such an extensive planner, when a character kind of runs away in their own direction, it makes it easier for me to be like, okay, well, I'm not writing yet, so let's see where this direction takes me, and let's see, can that become their story in the book? So it was okay, because like I hadn't written anything yet. Like, that's why I don't understand the other style, the other main style of writing, which is like, I'm what's called a planner. There's other writers that are called pantsers, so they write by the seat of their pants. In other words, they plan as they go. I have a very good close friend who is also an author, Stephen Black, and is he on his 4th, or is he on his 3rd? He's on his 3rd or 4th book. No, 4th book of his series, and he makes it up as he goes. Like, he does a ton of research at the end and he has rough ideas, and then he starts writing, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. And I couldn't do that, because that would make me rewrite the whole thing and go back so that the thing I come up with on page 94 makes sense with what happens at page 1. So
you going up to him goes, "You madden me." Stop it. It's like I hate you.
we respect each other's differences, and we've agreed not to speak of them.
Just like, there he is, son of a bitch.
Exactly.
Whisking up a well, just like, whisking up a well just in an instant. 2 days of planning, 2 days, one.
yeah. But yeah, so like, characters, what's really important to me with characters is that when I'm writing them, I need to have a reason to like them, but I also need to have a reason that I wouldn't. And then for me, that makes them more real. Like, so that and I don't mean in terms of their actions, I mean their personality. So like, using The Longest Night as an example, Hunter is exceptionally smart and really real book smart. You know what I mean? Like, really gets it. But he's also exceptionally clumsy and messy and all over the place. And like he at the start of the very, very start of the book, he's going through paperwork and looking at things. And what he does is he, instead of looking at one sheet at a time, let's say he had a big stack of paperwork and he had to organize them, he would go like, well, that's in that pile, and that's in that pile, and that's in that pile. And he'll categorize to the point that the floor is covered in paperwork, but it makes sense to him. So that would drive me insane. But also, I really admire how intelligent he is. So that's what I try to do with the characters.
Right. Like, you make them more real. I would imagine, like, okay, putting your characters in peril. Do you find that tricky to do, or you just like, yeah, like a certain, like a Martin who like just like, yeah, just as you're getting close to someone, you're like, you're the one. It's like, snap. I can't.
Yeah. Does the Thanos.
Yeah.
No, because that's, not to sound heartless, that's their purpose. I mean, if characters weren't in peril, you don't have a story. Especially the type of books I write, where it's that actiony, thrillery, running away from the bad guys with guns and you don't have guns, that kind of thing. If that's not happening, then you don't have a story. So I know some authors get very emotional sometimes when they're writing their books and be like, oh, I don't want to kill them off, or I don't want them to be. But I do feel bad, but also they're not real, so it's okay.
It's like, they're not real. They're not real. It's like,
Okay. It's fine.
No worries. You know what? Okay, you don't have to say if it's in the book or not, but what is one of the most gruesome ways you may have bumped off a character, or you've considered bumping off a character?
I'm trying to think of one that I can say.
Yeah.
That won't spoil stuff. Buried alive. Burned to death. One person is forced to, and this is in a book I'm still writing, so this one's spoiler-ish, but not really. One person is forced to not kill their partner, but to let their partner die through their own inaction. They have to, in order to save someone else that is deemed more important.
Okay.
So yeah, I put them through some shit.
Okay. Like, Conor, I'm gonna have to say, like, when you were growing up, like, did small animals disappear from your neighborhood?
I thought you were gonna say, Conor, I have to go. And you were just
no, you know what I mean? Just like, yeah, just recording, make sure we get as much evidence as we can. It's like, oh no, there's a power cut here somewhere in the UK.
No, like, it's funny. It's fun. I grew up on a farm, so I saw enough gruesome things just by nature anyway. But I did hear this one interesting thing. My books, I when I was writing The Longest Night and The Stolen Dagger, I qualified them as a supernatural thriller. But in a lot of reviews, people have been like, oh yeah, and it's quite creepy and scary. And so I think I made a mistake when I labeled the genre. I think maybe they should be more like a horror thriller, because they are quite dark. I've read darker, but they're still on the darker half of the light dark spectrum. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In terms of its tone and its atmosphere. But I've read before, and I think it's very true, the darker someone's books are, generally, the more chilled out and normal and giddy and sunny the author is. And the theory behind it is...
Good way to cover your tracks. Good way.
The theory behind that is that authors who write that gruesome stuff are purging that from their system, whereas people who don't write that stuff have that somewhere really deep down. They have that thought of being like, oh, I'd love to do that to somebody just because I hate them so much. Whereas I do it to characters, so I get it out of my system.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I can tell your better half is like breathing a sigh of relief hearing that from the
He may or may not have been the one that I was imagining when I was typing certain
yeah.
things.
That's
It's
like,
like, oh, you don't do the washing up anymore? That's fine. Debit 5.
it's like why are you staring at me like that?
No reason.
No reason. Ah, so how long did it take you to get your first book done and out there? Because
Yeah. So pretty fast by the normal standard, but pretty slow by my own. I started writing, as in I had, like for me, planning is the start of writing. So I started planning The Longest Night in October 2016.
Okay.
And I published it August 2018. 19. August 2019. Yeah, so like 3-ish years, a little bit shy of 3 years. There are authors out there who will be like, it took me 10 years, but here's the thing. I think it takes people 10 years to write their first book because that's not all they're doing. Whereas I got my book done, and like there was 6 months at one point during those 3 years that I did nothing with the book because I was just not motivated, which is totally normal and fine. But like I said, that my partner calling my bluff that time, like that kind of lit the fire. So I was like, no, I'm getting this done, and I want to publish it. And the original goal was to publish it before I turned 30. I failed in that, but I'm okay with that. I was 30 when the book came out, so I was pretty close, you know. So yeah, it's the reason for it is because I had read this book very close to the time we had that couple bucket list chat. I read this book called How to Level Up Your Life by a fitness instructor, Steve Calm, who runs the website Nerd Fitness. And it is a fitness book, and it is about working out and the mentality and your diet and all this kind of thing. But it's also about focusing and changing your life in such a way that you're doing the thing you want to do and that you're fulfilled with your life. And one sentence in it, the book is worth the price alone for this one sentence, was, from now on, you're not allowed to say, I don't have time for that. Now, instead, you have to say, that isn't a priority. And it's written for the, married couple with 3 kids who live in the suburbs and both work till 7 and get home, and then the nanny goes and then they say goodnight to the kids and the kids go to bed, to make them realize, I don't have time to play with my kids. Then when you say playing with my kids isn't a priority, it smacks people in the face and makes them go, oh, I'm prioritizing the wrong things. So I'm using that as an example. Like for me, it was, I don't have time for writing. No, it's writing isn't a priority. And that made me realize that's why I had never written. I was listening to the podcasts, I was reading the books, I was looking up articles, I was doing all this, but I wasn't actually writing. So I reorganized stuff. I looked at all the TV shows that the two of us were watching obsessively. I was like, am I actually enjoying this, or am I just watching the 10th season of The Walking Dead because the first season was good and I'm waiting for it to get good again?
Look, I'm not. I can't really say I'm a fan of The Walking Dead, like, because like the actual guy who wrote The Walking Dead, I would say like I'm a fan of his works. Like I basically, recently there was Invincible on Amazon Prime. Like, we can talk
so
about
good.
Oh God, fuck.
Yeah.
The actual show itself, I was like, oh my God. It's like, oh my God. So like, I get it. And I get like how you sort of like can drift into that sort of like, we're just watching it, just doing that.
We're watching it out of habit. That's the way I seen it before. And so that's what I did. I kind of looked at things that I was spending my time doing and saying, well, does this bring me enough to use that Marie Kondo, that Japanese lady that cleans your house, use her thing, does this spark joy? I was like, well, so I basically raised my standard of the television programs I was watching, the video games I was playing, the books I was reading, and said, unless it's a 9 or above, well, an 8 or above, let's be nice. Let's say unless it's an 8 out of 10 or above, I'm not wasting my time doing it, and I'm going to take that time and put it into writing.
Mm.
And one thing I did was I also started getting up really early instead of rolling out of bed at like 8:15 and then getting straight into my car to get to work on time. I started getting up at like 6:30, 7 in the morning, and I'd spend an hour or so writing or going to the gym or stuff. And I think doing that prioritizing the things that made me happier, which includes writing.
Mm.
I think that's why I was able to get the book out so fast.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, no, this is the thing. Yeah. So many people like say they want to do so many things in this world. I see so many things. And like basically, look, we've had 14 months, like 15 months where like everything has literally been put on hold. Like basically people which didn't like go, I don't have time. I don't have time to do all of this. I had all the time in the world if they were on a furlough scheme or if they were still kind of employed. Like it was a case of you're working, but let's be honest, you're not working. It's a case of so like that journey times that all of that time has been returned to you. But yeah, there was a large percentage of people. I'm not going to go, oh, the vast majority, because I don't know, but there was a large percentage of people which instead of like sort of fulfilling or doing that thing which they go, I don't have the time for it, all of a sudden that time was there and they never actually did it. And like, yeah, calling it like, yeah, is it a priority, yes or no? Yeah, you've got to like get real with it and like sit down and look at yourself honestly in the mirror and like go, yeah, if it is a priority, yeah, stop that TV, like stop watching that TV show, stop messing around. Look, like have a discussion with like your better half and go, yeah, I really need to do this for the next X amount of time. Will you be there to be able to support me? And like, you know what I mean? Like some partners will be like, and like some people, some partners will be like, yeah, go for it. Fulfill your dream. It's just if it's like, yeah, it's not like, no, it's not really a priority, then like put that aside and like look to something else and like, you know what I mean, move forward from there. But if you're gonna bitch and complain and like this, no, please shut up, because it wasn't a priority to you. So it shouldn't, like, bitching and complaining about it should not be now a priority to everyone else to listen to, if you get
it. Yeah. And I think that's one thing I liked about it, because there are some things that when I said, oh, I don't have time for that, when I changed to that isn't a priority, it was nearly a relief, because I was like, oh, great, that isn't a priority. I can stop worrying about it, because I used to be like, oh, I don't have enough time. Like I'd be in the staff room at work and everyone would be talking about some new TV show that just came out, and I was just like, I felt left out. And then when I'd say to myself that, let's say it was I can't think of a TV show now that I didn't watch. This is awful. Normal People came out here in Ireland, and it was a huge thing, and everyone was talking about Normal People. And then I just said, I don't have time to watch Normal People. No, watching Normal People isn't a priority. And it's like the weight is just put away, a lift off your shoulders. And I know, again, it's not all about TV shows. It's just that the easiest, the most accessible way to understand. Because maybe if someone says going to the gym isn't a priority, that might make them feel less guilty about not going to the gym. Like yes, you should exercise and maintain your health, obviously, but there's other ways to do that than going to the gym.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like this of it, I totally get that. If someone goes, yeah, gym's not a priority. Oh, okay, yeah, like, you know what I mean, go for a walk, like, you know what I mean, like hike, whatever, to get that time, like type in. And yeah, see how you can go with that. But if it's not a priority, don't waste your time, because it's a finite thing. And like, yeah, while you're wasting your time, taking energy away from something you really want to do, yeah, might lead to that sort of that endless journey of happiness we can try to seek out. Yeah, but like, this is the thing with with me doing podcasts and like you doing like books and a podcast. Now, did you find when you like started doing like your book that you like had to incorporate other things which might have surprised you along the way to sort of get the word out about your book?
Not quite sure what you mean by that. You mean like what
Like,
things did I?
you acquired other skills you didn't expect.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Well, my first thing was just being able to reach out to people and talk to strangers in a way that, like, especially online, in a way that was meaningful, as opposed to in a way that was, hey, buy my book, and just putting myself out there a little bit more. It's for years on the likes of Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. My profile picture would be just something. It would never be my face, because I'm a teacher and I'm not allowed to have a public life. That's the perception I was always under. Whereas now I'm the exact opposite. Now I'm like, hi, I'm Conor Bredin here. Go to my website, conorbredin.com. I have a podcast. Blah, blah, blah. And yes, some parents and some kids have stumbled across me on social media. The kids are a bit silly enough to comment and be like, oh, hi, Conor. And then I'm like, haha, block. So it's just the thing of like, I have to realize there's nothing wrong with putting yourself out there when you are a content creator, whether it be a podcast or whether it be YouTube videos or TikToks or novels. Like you can't, especially when you publish things yourself, when you're independent, when you don't have a corporation behind you that can help you with marketing.
Yeah,
it's really important that you have to like get over that taboo of talking about yourself in a positive way.
What would you say was like one of the more successful marketing campaigns to sort of get your book out there, if there is one?
Being consistent, I think, which doesn't sound like a marketing thing, but it is. So when my book when I was first drumming up to the release of the book, my only real way I was marketing was I had a Facebook page, which I've kind of neglected because it wasn't doing well. And I don't know if you know this, Miwa, but Facebook, or your listeners don't. Facebook is extremely good at making you want to pay for things.
Yeah, no, Facebook and Instagram are pay to play forums, and like this is the thing. Any like the time when you could get a natural born following from Facebook, that might have been 10, 12 years ago. Now it's you pay and you can play, and like yeah.
So the way Instagram and Facebook work now, the kind of way the algorithm works is you put up a post or something. I think I might be wrong. You might know better than I. It's something like 5 to 8% of your followers will see it. And only that.
Yeah.
It'll appear on their feed. And then if they interact with it, it will be put in front of more of your followers and more and more. And then if 100% of your followers that see it interact with it, it will then start appearing on other people's feed, because you know the way you're scrolling through Twitter or something, and it comes up, Miwa retweeted this, so that's how that happens. Whereas Twitter, I find, is a little bit more, you still can pay to play, and you can still have tweets or something that don't do as well. But the difference I find with Twitter in particular, Twitter is where I've had my most success, I think, in terms of marketing and social media and stuff. With Twitter, it's the more often one person interacts with you, the more often you'll appear on their feed. It's not down to the one tweet. It's down to it's you as a tweeter, as an account. So that I like a little bit better, because it's just a bit, I feel like it's more natural. Like if you see one of my tweets and you like it, and then you scroll and you see another one and you like it, Twitter's like, oh, okay, Miwa likes Conor on Twitter, so let's put Conor in front of Miwa, and then you're going to end up retweeting me more people. So I think just being consistent and being like making sure that people who try to follow you know what they're going to be seeing when they follow you as well. I try not to constantly push my book, but I will constantly mention there's a book while I'm talking about other things. Like people that follow, it's really funny. I have maybe 3 different camps of followers on Twitter. One is fellow writers who follow me because we're writers and we support each other. I have then friends and family, which is really, really small sliver, but they're there. And then I have fellow teachers who follow me because of the because I'm giving out about the latest cutbacks, or I'm talking about a particular lesson that I did that I thought was really good or whatever. And it was really interesting is when those three different audiences interact.
I'm just like going, what? That's like authors, friends and family, and teachers. Right? And when you're like just like talking about like politics, it's like going, huh? How does that work?
I know.
It's like,
don't.
It's like, hello. It's like, how you guys doing? Hello.
Basically. Like I had like that author I mentioned earlier, them friends at Stephen Black, like he said something that was like I gave out I just tweeted something basic. It was just like, didn't have a great day today, can't talk about it. It was something to work that I can't mention. Didn't have a great day today, can't talk about it, but angry face.
Yeah.
And one of my author friends, Stephen, goes, was it the Minister of Education? What did she say this time? I think being yourself on social media is one of the best and most underrated ways of helping your content be seen, because people know the difference between someone who's just like, I've seen Twitter accounts that can have 10, 15, 20,000 followers, but their tweets get like 5 comments maybe on average, less sometimes, and that's because all they do is tweet about their books. And it was like, hey, have you read The Longest Night yet? You can buy it on Amazon.co.uk for da-da-da. Hey, have you done, and that's fine. Whereas when you're a real person, and then people are more inclined to like you, and then they're going to end up looking more at your stuff, and then, oh, he has a podcast, I didn't know that, listen. Oh, he has a book, let's check that out. Oh, it has 5 stars, great, cool, I'll buy it. And I just think being that consistent person makes people more enamored with you, and then
yeah. No, like this is the thing. I always like when you say consistency, I say consistency is the most powerful force in this universe, because people are like, what do you mean consistency is the most powerful force? Look, okay, you do something good or you do something bad, you put consistency to either one of those things, you start to see a pattern forming. You do bad things, all of a sudden more and more bad things keep on coming your way. You do like consistently good things, more and more good things come your way. Like, yeah, you like consistently active. Yeah, like this comes your way. Consistently inactive, this comes your way. So it's like, if you don't understand the power of consistency, and it doesn't I don't think anyone does until there's a point
until
in
you
life.
the other side of it, really.
Yeah.
Like it's until you've been consistent and you look back and you're like, like that's the effect. Like I'll be perfectly honest, I don't make a lot of book sales at all. Like I'd maybe have 6 or 7 a month, right, on Amazon, but I'm really happy with that, because that's without any paid advertising. That's without me talking about my book. That's without, you know what I mean? That's just me being me, and then people are like, oh, he has a book, click.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping eventually I'll get to a point where I'll have more time and more capability to push that further. And
like, this is the thing, it is your first book, and you know what, like there are some people which they go, oh, it's my first book and I sold millions. No, but like I would say the vast majority of authors who are out there, especially with this day and age where, okay, self-publishing is a thing, and like if this was, say, the 90s, 80s, 90s, like sort of early 2000s, yeah, you would get a publisher who then would like put their time, money, and resources to like push you out there to as many people as possible. Right now, being a self-publisher, this is what it's about. Like, and like people might not like the word grind or hustle or anything like that, but in like to make things realistically happen on a certain level, you've got to do that. You've got to put time and energy into it. If you don't, it's not going to grow. It's not going to flourish. It's just going to sit there. And like, it's great to be an author to, my mom picked up my book and my dad like bought it out of sympathy.
My mom didn't. My mom didn't.
I've got a book.
Do you want to know something? Like, I love my partner. I love him very much, but he cannot talk right now. He's severely dyslexic, so he hasn't even tried. He hasn't even tried to read it. He's just like, oh, no, I just can't. So he's waiting for me to do the audiobook, which is another thing on my never-ending to-do list, and I will do it. But yes, that's going to be entertaining. But like even like for an example of being consistent and being yourself, like how much of this very podcast was me talking about teaching before we even started talking about the book. And the reason I do these podcasts is marketing. Like it's selling it's trying to get my name out there so people buy the book. But we were having a natural flowing conversation, so that's the rabbit hole we went down, and I was more than happy to do that, you know.
But this is the reason why I do my podcast the way I do my podcast. It's not like, this is the thing. I could be super niche and just like focus on one thing and like, yes, I'm going to talk about marketing, or I'm going to just talk about sales, like, which I like,
which some podcasts do. And that's a totally legitimate way to do it as well. Like,
absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with those podcasts. Like for myself, the reason why I started my podcast was about like, look, I'm a man now in his 40s, and like the thing what people never tell you when you grow up, it's like, yeah, when you roll, when you're in school, you go out with your friends. It's like, yes, we are Legion. Everyone roars at the same time. And like when you hit your 20s, you're like, oh, we are Legion. That roar is
yeah.
But it's a little less. Like when you hit your 30s, we are Legion. Well, not really a Legion. We're like we're like a squad.
No, I'm not. I have a mortgage to deal with. Sorry. Like that's what you end up with.
Yeah, we're a squadron, and then like, yeah. But as time goes by, in my 40s, it's like, yeah, we are Legion. And no, it's like, no, this is like a ride and die small crew. And you're like, oh, yeah, see how things go. So you're not going out as much. You're not seeing, like, you're not talking to people randomly and everything like this. But it's a way for me to sort of still be able to grow in as a person by talking to people from all over, like the spectrum, like from authors like yourself to marketers to like coaches to, oh my Lord. I remember speaking to like a rabbi, David, like over in New York. But I speak to people all over the globe thanks to the power of Zoom and technology. I noticed Zoom caught you out quite recently when like they put a new feature on there where it tells you, yes, you've just started recording, which it caught me out too. I was like, what?
It was so funny.
Yeah. I was like, I saw the same look on your face as I had. I was just like, huh? What?
And I was going to edit that out, and I was just like, no, that's too funny, because it caught my guest Trina, whom I actually know from real life, from the before times.
Before times.
She and I are in the same writing group, and we had a discussion, but the other of us were expecting this. So there was this brief moment where we weren't being the author and the podcaster; we were just being ourselves. Going, did you hear that? I did. Did you hear that? What was that about?
Who else is on this? Is it China? It's like, carry on. It's like,
let's keep going.
Yeah, ignore the voice. Carry on. But yeah, that's the way for me with podcasts. And like the thing I love about podcasts is you can do it absolutely your own way if you want it. Because look, with your podcast, you're like interviewing like authors from all over the place. And like, look, and from what I can see of the amount of people you've interviewed, it's building into like, look, it's building into a nice little community of like-minded authors where, you know what I mean, you can turn to and you can talk to and build that sort of team, that kind of community, which, you know what I mean, love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so, like when I started the podcast, I was like, okay, well, why am I doing it? Right. You know, and for me, it was like, I had two goals. One was to, again, get my name out there. It was content marketing. It was, I want people to be more familiar with me so that when the next book comes out and the next one after that, at least there'll be a bit of a group of people there who are more familiar with me and might be more interested in buying the book. Right. So that was, and that's a totally, like, I'm very honest and open like that. But I didn't want it to just be about that. I wanted to make sure there was something else I was getting from it. So I decided, right, well, I'm going to see how much I can learn from other storytellers. And that's where the name came from, Story of a Storyteller. It was, I wanted to learn from other people by chatting with them, specifically to aid hone my writing skill. So like I've had authors that are New York Times bestselling authors. And I've had authors who haven't even published anything yet, because you can learn from every step of the path. You can, like, there's no matter where you are in your journey, there's always someone ahead of you, there's always someone behind you, and they know something you don't, no matter where you are. So that was kind of the mission statement of Story of a Storyteller, was I need to learn from people, and I need to grow. And
no, but like, hey, so how many episodes are you in? I know you got season, you've just started season 3, but how many episodes are you in now?
So I do 10 episodes a season. Usually, however, with we were discussing this before we hit record, with my grandmother passing away, I decided to let season 3 finish at 8 episodes, because I was struggling to find guests and stuff. So now I'm focusing on season 4. So I do 10 episodes a season. I have so with 10, 28, and then I did a Christmas special as well. So I have 29 episodes out at the minute, and I'm quite happy with it. Like, by the time season 4 ends, it'll be a year old with 39 episodes out there.
No, that's good. That's very good, because look, like the typical like scenario for most podcasts, like the reason why there's so many podcasts, most of those podcasts are dead because it is 5 and done. If you can make it past 5 with podcasts, if you like, with you hitting like 40, wow, that is like an incredible benchmark. And people just like I think people don't get it with podcasts. They're like, oh yeah, because it's not the easiest thing to find.
Yeah, no, and sure, you know just as well as myself. Like, it's you know better than I. You're 150 episodes in, which the inner nerd of me was, when you said episode 150, I was like, so I'm Mewtwo. Mewtwo is Pokemon number 150.
I am the most powerful Pokemon there is. Like, see my glory, feel my power. My lady's most really like looking like, what on earth is he talking about?
Who is this guest? Talking about teaching, now they're talking about writing, podcast, Pokemon. What? That's Conor. That's Conor Bredin, Conor the Geek. It's my Twitter handle for a reason. But yeah, no. So like, that was the whole thing. The whole thing was like learning and growing and figuring things out. And yeah, you're right. I have built this little community of my guests in particular, and that's one thing I want to expand that community a little bit. That's kind of the next stage in the podcast. I do like a lot of my guests have actually become genuine, really close friends. Like there's 2 authors I just stumbled across them on Twitter that are both based in Ireland, one in Belfast, one here in Dublin, and the 3 of us are literally counting down the days that we're all fully vaccinated so we can go and meet and see each other in person. And like, the 3 of us we're in a little group chat on Twitter, just the 3 of us, and we're in it every day talking to each other, you know. And then there's a couple of other authors that I'm very close with that are in New York, and like we've gone on Zoom chats just to catch up and see how we're all getting on, simply because we've become really good friends. So I want to expand that now and start including the listeners a little bit more. So that's kind of the next stage. I don't know how, but I want to have as good a friendship with my regular listeners as I do with my previous guests.
You might want to look into either doing YouTube live, or basically doing it over Twitch, or wait, what is that? Look at a program called StreamYard, because that allows you to have like you can connect a number of different live.
I think you can do 3 at a time. I think like the Facebook Live and YouTube and Twitch and Twitter, like they have a couple.
And I would say what platform to concentrate on, I don't know. I would say definitely keep it on YouTube and like see what other like maybe Twitch, and I don't like maybe Facebook, but I'm not 100% sure with that. But use StreamYard. like do like sort of live broadcasts that way, and like see if you can get people to come over that
I
way.
know, and this is becoming much more a podcaster to podcaster chat than it is.
Well, it's gone through many different stages, my friend.
Yeah, yeah. I know, and I want to see what you think of this. Actually, I've heard of a couple of podcasts doing this thing where, because I like to have my podcast a bit edited, so I wouldn't be comfortable just filming live and done.
Yeah.
Because I like to edit in an intro and an outro as well. But I've heard this. What some people do is they actually stream the recording of the podcast.
Mm.
So like we'd be streaming this live, including the bit before and after we record.
Yeah.
And then they have the podcast episode come out later. Like, what do you think of that? Do you think,
Like, put it this way, the whole thing is, I would say, depending which platform you're on, like, because I think YouTube favors like live streaming, and like if you're on a platform like Twitch, that definitely favors live streaming. It's just an extra way of like touching bases with people, and because the one hard thing about podcasts, if you don't have it on YouTube, say, you have it out there in the ether, like sitting on all of these different podcast directories, but it's incredibly hard for people to just search it out. You doesn't have that sort of say search capability. So I would say if you want to like give it an extra bow, I have never done it, so I don't know the success rate of it myself. But I would just say, just give you that extra sort of findability. I've been on a couple. I've been on. Wait, no. I've been on one live interview where it was like a sort of group panel thing, and from that, there was an increased engagement from like people like finding me that way. But yeah, but the main way I would say, like, I don't go on to many other people's podcasts, because the only reason why that is because I'm just trying to get stuff together, and like I've recently gone back to work, so it's like, okay. But if it was me and I was like just trying to get the podcast, like my podcast out there as much as possible, because I've got to learn my craft still, even with 150.
oh,
So
yeah,
yeah. So it's a case of, yeah, I would go on as many podcasts as possible. I would look at doing the live thing. I would look at doing something else where, like, yeah, maybe doing like getting your community together and like, yeah, doing a 4-way chat or a 3-way chat, doing a live sort of like conversation about that, and like doing it that way.
There's just so many ways to do it, and
Yeah.
I think that's one thing. Like, I don't know what kind of a thing your audience really clings to for the show. Like, I'm sure it's you as a host, but then like what it is. But like if any of the listeners are people that are wanting to go into this life of content creation, again, YouTube or Twitch or podcast or novels, whatever it is, I think what's important is that you take it baby steps, like one thing at a time.
Yeah.
That's the first reason that I said, okay, I'm only going to do this in seasons, and I'm only going to do 10 episode seasons. Because if I'm doing, I knew it would happen that if, for myself, if I tried to make it weekly, that I would burn out, and I knew I didn't have the time for that, and that's just something that will happen eventually, I hope, once I'm more confident and stuff, and once I'm in a better routine, so it's all about baby steps, and then when you've mastered that step, and only when you've mastered it, to move on to the next one.
Yeah, I would say, like, yeah, baby steps. Learning on the way is always like, look, I would say, don't, like, if someone's out there and they want to start, like, don't get hung up about like totally mastering it all, because that can sometimes stop someone like moving forward. I would say get enough episodes under your belt, if it's like podcast, YouTube, being an author, like taking photos or whatever it might be. Get enough sort of like episodes, get enough sort of experience under your belt, so you know where you've succeeded, where you failed, what you could do better, and how you've like triumphed along the way, and like take it from there. Because look, and don't compare yourself to people who have gone before you, because that situation, that circumstance was at that time. And that time was that time. Now it's today. Look, if you went back, say, 4 years, well, 3 years even, you're on TikTok, right?
Yeah, I only started this year.
Yeah, you started this year. TikTok wasn't a thing 3 years ago. And look, and I've looked at some of the engagement numbers you've got. You're getting like 500 views here, 500 views there. And like, as you said, when you looked at the number of your villages, it's like a small town. It's like a small village.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, because like I know TikTok is funny, and no, not just TikTok. This happens on Twitter as well. There's this thing of follow for follow.
Yeah, never do that.
No. And I made the mistake at the start of just before my book came out. I really tried to get my Twitter following up a bit, and like, in the grand scheme of things, I know I'm a small fry person on Twitter. I have like 2,000 and something followers, I think. But the difference is a lot of those 2,000 are engaged, and they actually comment, and they actually retweet, and they actually talk to me, and I talk back. And that is so much, like, engagement is far more important than follower numbers. And I think there's this, this is my opinion. I'm not saying this is gospel. And there is this thing, especially I find it a lot on TikTok in particular, of this follow for follow. And you'll see people with 11,000, 12,000, 100,000 followers, but their videos are like 200 views.
Yeah.
But then you look at how many people they follow, and it's like, oh, the numbers are the same. That's why, like, they're only following people that follow back.
Yeah.
And if you think, like, so if you're someone who does that, if you're someone who follows for follows, if you think of your own activity on these social media apps, all you're doing is looking and following people in the hopes that they'll follow you back. You're not engaging in content.
No.
So the people who are following you back because you followed them, they're doing the same thing. They're not engaging in content. They're looking for more followers, and that's it. You know?
Yeah, no, I agree, because look, with regards to sort of content, and like, basically, it's a sad state to say, like, if you are involved in anything creative, you've got to be a marketing PR guru in some form or way. But like, I'm not talking high level, but enough to sort of be able to get like traction. Because if you don't have that type of skill behind you, and look, there's a YouTuber photographer called Peter McKinnon, okay? And there's another YouTube photographer called Gerald Poland. And look, Gerald Poland has been in the game longer than Peter McKinnon. And like, Gerald Poland's got about 1.5 billion like subscribers on his YouTube channel. Peter McKinnon, like, it's got something like almost 10 million. And like, that's because when it comes down to the one key difference, Peter McKinnon knows how to market and sort of publicize himself a lot more. And anyone you see big on anything has that skill in abundance as well as that. And like, I would say, I'm not going to say it should take away from anyone, but it's a case of it's important. Or if you can't do it, find someone who can and like help you. Because you've got to remember, you don't, like, for greatness, it's not a solo thing. It is a team.
Yeah, no, you're right. Like, it's that age-old phrase that it takes a village to raise a child.
Yeah,
I mean, it is. And I think that's the most important thing of being a content creator, for lack of a better term. I know that's all we've been saying, and I'm not talking about just podcasts or TikToks or anything. Like, if you're someone who creates something that other people watch or read or listen to for enjoyment, you're a content creator. And if you are, there is no such thing as a one-man show. People will say there is, but there's not. Like, you meanwhile, you run your podcast completely on your own and everything, and you do it, but you have friends and family that support you. You have guests that come on. You have fans that listen. I have a novel that wouldn't have been written if it wasn't for my partner that gave me a kick up the arse to actually realize I'm supposed to be writing if I want to be a writer. I have author friends now that I've made in the last year and a half. Really, COVID really did that. That we've all read each other's books and we're singing each other's praises all the time, and our books are being found by each other's followers because we were supporting each other. So like it's all about that like sense of community, and I think that is something that certain walks of life on social media don't realize how important that genuine community is.
Outstanding. Like one more question before you go.
Sure.
Like this might be the toughest question you might face all day.
I don't know, man. It was sports day today.
Look, you true. Well, we shall see. And let's give this is up to the sports like day challenge. Okay, now, like now he's warming up. Okay, now think of one of your personal favorite films or like TV shows, right? Now, if you could like that film or TV show, now if you could replace the whole cast with Muppets and have one human, which film or TV show would that be, and which one would you keep or replace?
Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and the human would be Giles.
Oh, which Muppet would be like Buffy?
Oh, the actual Muppets, like it would be just new. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that changes things.
Oh.
Okay. I'm changing my answer then because I thought it was just going to be Muppets. All right, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Miss Piggy is Buffy.
Yes.
Willow would be Janice. The other one that has her eyes closed.
Yeah.
Xander would be Fozzie the Bear. Kermit the Frog would be Giles, and the only human would be whoever the villain is of the season. Yeah. So so in season 1 it'd be the Master, season 2 it'd be Angel, who would have been a Muppet in season 1. So that'd be interesting. So yeah, there you go. Miss Piggy would be an amazing Buffy. Yeah, exactly. I mean, she has the moves already.
There you go. Brilliant. Oh, I love it. Conor, can you tell the people how they can find you out there in the big wide world?
Big wide world. Main place would be ConorBredin.com. So ConorBredin.com. That has links to most of my social media and book and podcast. The podcast, if you want to look for it on its own, is Story of a Storyteller. And everywhere on social media, I'm just Conor the Geek.
Excellent. I'd like to say thank you to you, Conor, for coming on today. You have been a superstar. Loving it. And I'd like to say thank you to you, my friends, my life warriors out there. Please stay safe, stay well, be awesome, be excellent, be fantastic, be all the positive bees you can be in this world, and then some. Have a great day, guys. Yes. Peace. And we are